Assalamu alaikum ji. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It's my pleasure to welcome you all this morning, this afternoon, this evening, depending on where you are, to this webinar, which will focus on a very topical discussion as we go through some very difficult times around COVID. I welcome Iftikhar Taj Sahab, President ICAP, Ashwaq Tola Sahab, Vice President ICAP, and Mr. Jafar Hussain, past President ICAP as well, who have joined us and graced this webinar. As I mentioned, these are certainly extraordinary times. COVID-19, since its outset last year, has impacted our economy, our business, our personal and professional lives. The cost of human tragedy is, of course, unmeasurable. But let me share just some of the stats reflecting on the economic pain felt. We estimate around $6.7 trillion have been wiped out from the global economy. This forecast fall in GDP is equivalent to the annual economic output of Germany and France combined. So this is combined. This is the deepest recession since the Second World War, 3 times as severe as the one caused during the 2007-8 financial crisis. 92% of the countries have plunged into recession. This is the highest number since the smallpox pandemic of 1870. The volatility seen in the markets is beyond that is seen in the dot-com bubble and the Great Recession of the early 1900s. And there potentially will be more bumps to come as well. It is certainly overwhelming, but hopefully we have now the light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccines being rolled out. Let's see how long it takes, but hoping for the best from this point onwards. So now as we work through the December year ends, where most of the corporates go through the year-end reporting and auditing cycles, we thought we'd just get together and share our experiences and learn from each other. We have an excellent lineup of panelists with us today. All have a very strong connection with Pakistan and ICAP and have had an excellent career progression in the UK working for global organizations. We'll hear their experiences, learn from them, and hopefully benefit as most of us go through our own year-end reporting cycles. Before we start the panel discussion, I'll request Mr. Iftikhar Taj Sahab, the President of ICAP, to give his welcome address, please. Over to you, Iftikhar sir.
Thank you, Shoaib sir. And I'm grateful to Ashwaq Tola Sahab, who is holding this session. This is very, very important webinar. And it is not only important for the practicing members, but CFOs as well, and the companies as well. This is a great opportunity to connect to overseas members as well. And globally, I would be interacting with overseas members in coming days through Zoom. Regarding this seminar and this webinar, I strongly believe that auditors have many challenges while auditing financials of companies during COVID. But more than them, it is the challenge for CFOs. CFOs to maintain the top line, bottom line, and the overall results and the balance sheet structure, what they wanted to maintain before the COVID times. This is a big challenge. Every reporting, whether corporate reporting or the management reporting, every reporting has a purpose, and that purpose should be always in front of us. If we can meet the purpose, be it COVID time, war time, or normal times, we are successful. Bottom line, these numbers are never in our control because we are not the only ones to generate these numbers. But the purpose of the statements, that's much more important than anything. These are challenges with regard to performance of the companies. There are challenges with regard to forming an opinion on the financial statements of the companies. And I'm sure this great lineup, having Khurram Akeli and Bano, moderated by Shoaib, I'm sure every member is going to learn a lot and participate actively in this discussion. I would also be learning from all of you. So let's start learning time. Thank you very much, Shoaib. And I congratulate all of you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Iftikhar sahab. Very pertinent points, and hopefully we'll pick up on most of your discussions later today. May I just request Ashwaq sahab, who is always generous with his time and with his efforts when it comes to the overseas chapters and such events to share a few words as well, please. Ishfaq Saab, over to you.
Assalamu alaikum and Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, Shoaib. Thank you, Mr. President, and my past president, worthy past president, Jafar Saab. And thank you all of the members to attend this webinar. After such good introduction by Shoaib and then added further by my worthy president, Mr. Iftikhar Taj, I am left with a little to say. This is a good webinar, and I think the discussion will roam around how to create some opportunities and how to learn lessons from the COVID and how to make financial reporting effective in this era. As Shoaib has mentioned that this was the great recession after the World War II. Let me tell you, Shoaib, actually people are comparing that world economists are now of the view it is one of the greatest, even worse than the World War II recession. Nonetheless, this is a debate, and as we all know that economic is not a science, it is an art. Let's wait and see what happens next. But as far as I am concerned, I think that Pakistan is also facing quite a few challenges. And I think our economy is slowly and gradually recovering because the recipe of our economy is basically lies in the low interest rate and a controlled parity. So slowly and gradually we are going towards that. And despite of having a negative inflation, we are managing and maintaining our economy. So this is a good sign. Back home, it's a good news for you all. We at one point in time, maybe in 2017, we were planning to bring all of you back to the home because the progress was so that we were expecting a GDP of 9.3 in 2023. Nonetheless, because of COVID and because of growth, slowing the growth, I think that only remain a dream. I am extremely grateful to Shoaib and all three panelists, Khurram Mukheli, Noman Ali, and Madam Banu Sheikh. I'm happy to have a female panelist, and mashallah, we are promoting women in our profession. And I'm quite positive that this is going to be a very good and a tough discussion. And it is going to be tough for you all to reply to the members, because the members are very much wise now and they want to learn about this. Nonetheless, I will request you all to make it bilingual and try to explain something in Urdu as well, because ये जरा हमारी कौमी ज़बान है, ठीक है, we all can speak English very well and we can understand, but I think हमें अब this is high time for all of us to promote our mother language as well. और शुएब अब अंग्रेजी छोड़ो, उर्दू पे आओ थोड़ा बहुत, ठीक है ना? अब अगर हम इमरान रसूल को लेके आएंगे next time, or maybe some Professor Alford, then it's okay. Otherwise, let's promote our own language. I think people are waiting for you to discuss, and Jafar Saab is eagerly looking at you. So I think he's also trying to learn so he can teach his students as well. With these words, again, I welcome you all on behalf of Overseas Chapter as a chairman, and on behalf of my council, especially my president Iftikhar Taj and my vice president Mohammad Ali Latif. Thank you very much. Pakistan Zindabad.
Thank you, Ishfaq साहब. दोनों मिक्स उर्दू और इंग्लिश दोनों मिक्स ही रख देंगे, चलें ऐसे कर लेते हैं. एक बात जो आपने बोली, I think economics is an art equally. I think आजकल के ज़माने में corporate reporting and the audit has become an art as well. It's not a science these days in these difficult times. So certainly we'll pick up on those things as well. So before we start formally, one disclaimer as always. The panelists have joined us and I'm grateful to them. Lekin their opinions are their own personal opinions, obviously. They are here to represent themselves and have association with different organizations, but they'll be sharing their personal opinions over here based on their own experiences. Let's just do a quick round of introduction. A quick introduction ka round kar lete hain, and then we'll get into the mix of things. Start karte hain with Banu. Ladies first, as always.
Assalamualaikum everyone. Hi, my name is Banu Sheikh, and lovely to meet you all. My journey has been quite nice as well. मेरा ज़्यादातर time अपना जो भी educational journey है पाकिस्तान से start हुई, लाहौर से मैंने CA किया, ACCA किया, Then I moved into industry, did a little bit of time in Middle East, Dubai at KPMG. और पिछले 13 साल से मैं UK में हूँ. So mostly my journey started in Scotland, Edinburgh में, और फिर Edinburgh to London. And then I did a little bit of time in Dublin. So I've been in the professional services for all this time. And then after that, I became a partner in KPMG in 2019. So I've been a partner in asset management, audit for the last 2 years now. And looking forward to some engagement with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bana. Welcome on board. Noman, over to you for a quick introduction.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. This is my first webinar, so I started my journey with Tasir Hadi in Karachi, moved to the US, then spent some time in the UK, then Middle East and back in the UK. Currently, I'm working as the Chief Accounting Officer for Financial and Regulatory Reporting for HSBC Group based in London. I look after the group's external reporting, financial reporting, as well as reg reporting, as well as ESG reporting as well. And I'm बहुत खुशी हो रही है आज के कुछ मौका मिल रहा है कि हम थोड़ा contribute करें अपनी community को भी. Thank you.
Thank you, Noman. Khurram, please, quick intro.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Khurram Ukheli, it's like others, मेरी भी journey Tasir Hadi Karachi से start हुई, and then moved to UK in 2005, spent some time with PwC, और उसके बाद industry में चला गया, worked with the company. SSP group operates in the food and travel sector, जो आजकल काफ़ी impacted COVID की वजह से, और various roles from group financial roles to divisional international CFO role, and then recently I moved to Dixon Scarphone, which operates in the UK electronic retail business and the brands of Currys, PC World, and internationally in sort of 6 other countries. So very good to be here, and look forward to contribute.
Thank you, Khurram. So let's start. I think पहला question जो आता है जो मेरे mind में था, and we can work through this as हम progress करते हैं. Okay, mostly I think remote working is in play, especially internationally. UK की situation the lockdown में है, हम almost 1 महीना हो गया है. And this is going to prolong, I think, as we go through the year-end cycle. In other countries as well, even Pakistan, I think remote working का culture काफी बढ़ गया है. तो इसमें obviously जो financial statements close process है, so how do we close the financial statements? उसको that must have been affected. और उसमें question I think एक दो जो मेरे mind में है कि हम कैसे ensure करें कि we maintain the integrity of financial information. कोई additional financial controls have been in play? और टेक्नोलॉजी का कितना यूज जो है हम कर रहे हैं to make sure कि we deliver true and fair corporate reporting. So let me start with Noman first, and then we'll go around to other panelists as well. So Noman, over to you, please. Your thoughts on that.
Sure. Thanks, Shoaib. So if I just start with the big picture first, so the COVID-19 outbreak has really taught us that we can undertake roles effectively outside our branches and offices as well. If I talk about HSBC, we have around 230,000 colleagues around the world, 7,000 employees within finance. But overall, we in the finance function as well as in the bank have operated with resilience. And if someone would have asked us like 12 months ago that 90% of our workforce can work remotely, we wouldn't have believed that. But we managed to run our operational accounting and financial reporting processes smoothly, and we ensured that we were able to deliver our external deliverables. And obviously the main enabler was technology. So technology really helped us in performing our tasks more efficiently and communicate effectively as well. So I think the main thing was कि जो भी challenges हमें face हुए उसमें having a good IT infrastructure was key, and जो IT controls थे हमारे systems में, and especially the use of EUCs and what controls we have over that was also very helpful. And then, as I mentioned, communication. No one, I mean, I did not know about Zoom early last year, but these kind of technology successes have also contributed a lot. Having said all that, I think we should not forget the challenges which we faced as well. जो regulatory reporting demands थी regulators की, वो बहुत increase हुई. So as well as internal analysis or information requirement जो थी, तो उसकी वजह से obviously overall staff were really stretched to deliver on various fronts. And secondly, from a personal perspective, again, I think colleagues were missing that human interaction. जो coffee tea breaks होती थी, जो just walking around next to someone's desk having those kind of discussions. So that was not possible from a remote environment perspective. So again, just to summarize, I think technology really helped us and enabled us to deliver, as well as I'm sure other organizations as well.
Thank you, Noman. I think technology, certainly, I think Zoom, the penetration is unbelievable. Maybe I think we're not supposed to give investment advice, लेकिन किसी ने shares ले लेने चाहिए थे Zoom के किसी ज़माने में. Over to you, Khurram. आपका experience कैसा रहा है with in your role as the group finance director, जो एक FTSE 250 company है, I think उस हिसाब से ये retail market में है, जो कि obviously काफी affect भी हुई है. तो आपका experience कैसा रहा है to deal with the financial statements closing process अभी year end के?
Yeah, and I think दो चीजें हैं शिव. एक तो ये कि business wise, we finance helps really, run the business जो आप अपने stakeholder के साथ काम करते हैं. जो COVID की वजह से जिस तरह things change dramatically, especially in retail sector, with shops band ho gayi, people with companies with good online infrastructure, they moved quickly. Companies with sort of not so good online infrastructure sort of struggled, and maybe sort of some got there and some didn't. तो एक तो impact जो है around business, to give business the transparency and some clarity के हो क्या रहा है. तो around forecast, around planning, the एक term जो हम use करते हैं finance में, पहले कभी नहीं use होती थी इतनी, लेकिन आजकल बहुत होती है, which is agile finance. So which is now being used to death, I think. So I think that has had a bigger impact in terms of stretching the finance resources to give business that clarity. And then financial close process, I would echo what Noman said, कि technology जो है, Zoom हो गया, Teams हो गया, and you're signing documents, so Adobe, DocuSign, etc. That really helped with getting things moving. और जो चीज़ जो हम पहले सोचे थे कि यार अगर हम physically नहीं sign करेंगे documents, so how will it work? So that really helped. और communication is I would say it has always been the key and most important thing in any planning, in any close process. It has and it has just become now the sort of the top step of everything. If you communicate clearly, clear instructions, deadlines that you agree with your team internally, and especially if you are running a global team, making sure communicating those deadlines with the global team. और एक चीज हम और भूल जाते हैं कभी-कभी कि स्टेक होल्डर्स जो हैं क्लोज प्रोसेस में, इट्स नॉट ओनली इंटरनल जो आपके बिजनेस यूनिट्स हो गए, आपकी फाइनेंस टीम्स हो गई, रीजनल फाइनेंस टीम्स हो गई, बट ऑल्सो एक्सटर्नल stakeholders. So communicating early with the auditors, with lawyers and advisors. Some companies have issues and they deal with lawyers and advisors, and that could impact your financial reporting. So that has played a very important role in having clarity around those processes. The other thing, personally speaking, which we found really helpful is do a hard close earlier before P12. So, every time when you do, P12 close, we all know sometimes you find some surprises. And I think now is the time to do that hard close earlier than P12, so you don't get any surprises when you're actually closing the books in that.
Thank you, Khurram. I think some good points there as well. I think forecasting or agile finance, जो आप कह रहे हैं कि managing stakeholder expectations, particularly with forecasting. I think मैंने एक साल में इतने फोरकास्ट कभी नहीं फाइनेंस हमारी टीम ने बनाए होंगे जितने पिछले साल बनाए,
Exactly.
with multiple scenarios and variables and so on. Moving on, Bano, I think question आपके लिए आता है कि this is probably a different experience for you as well, कि ये जो remote audit का concept जो आया है over the last year, उसका experience कैसा रहा है आपका so far? और उसके साथ एक question ये भी है कि auditor, हम सिखाते हैं कि भाई inherently you have to be skeptical. Everything should be taken with disbelief. सही नहीं करा अगला बंदा. तो वो लेवल ऑफ स्केप्टिसिज्म कुछ बढ़ गई है ड्यूरिंग द ऑडिट्स इन द करंट एनवायरनमेंट. तो आपसे आई हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड कि रिमोट ऑडिट का एक्सपीरियंस कैसे मैनेज कर रहे हैं आप, और जो आपका लेवल ऑफ प्रोफेशनल स्केप्टिसिज्म है विद द व्यू कि देयर कुड बी पोटेंशियल रिस्क ऑफ फ्रॉड या एरर, उसको किस तरह से मैनेज कर रहे हैं?
So पहली तो बात ये है कि I echo what Numan and Khurram has said कि किस तरह वो मैनेज कर रहे हैं financial statement close process. From an audit point of view, हमने भी ये सोचा था कि it will be very challenging to work remotely and finish our audits. But I was very pleasantly surprised कि last year जब हमारा lockdown यहाँ start हुआ था, we were in the middle of the busy season delivering audits. But because of technology, we were able to kind of manage that whole process quite nicely, quite okay. We didn't have a lot of difficulties. और उसमें मेरे ख्याल है एक चीज ये हो सकती है कि we knew it was coming, but still technology did aid all of that. हमारे लिहाज से because अब ये आपने बिल्कुल सही बात की है कि how does COVID impact इस वक्त the human contact, going and having the management discussions, having those things all helped us give a feel कि पूरा आपका control environment कैसे operate हो रहा है. जब वो नहीं आप देख सक रहे होते हो, then you feel worried कि ये क्या हो रहा है, सही कुछ हर चीज सही हो रही है या नहीं हो रही है. Again, technology has helped us. In my case, my teams have been able to do walkthroughs, alongside the client on on technology. The Zoom calls पे, Microsoft Teams पे, been doing all these long walkthroughs, discussion, panel discussions, so it all has helped. The other thing जो मेरे लिहाज से हुआ है कि वो हमारा C-suite interaction बहुत बढ़ गया. Board level interaction काफी बढ़ गया. We are challenging the management and the board. What are you doing to make sure there is nothing wrong within your books and records? तो वो भी आपको further information दे रहे हैं कि how are they taking this whole process, how they're getting comfortable, what are the additional controls they've put in place. वो सारी चीजें aids us to come make a good decision about what's happening. हम लोग भी internally भी अब हमारा जो कह सकते हो between people, we've actually had more discussions कि how do we manage different types of fraud risks. Where do we increase and penetrate and do more testing? Like हमारा use of technology in our revenue testing has increased. हम वो कोशिश कर रहे हैं हमारी ज़्यादा चीज़ें जो areas of audit focus हैं उनको ज़्यादा 100% test किया जाए. Use of technology से उसको better way पे analyze किया जाए. Expectations set की जाए. Or for this year, because we knew कि हमारा delayed return to office होगा, हम लोगों ने already we also worked with the management and made sure hard close जल्दी audit कर लिया जाए. So that all helped us to overcome you can say the challenges and the risks associated primarily with working from home and doing audits remotely.
Thank you. एक चीज, I think we were discussing this before the session. कि stock takes for example जो हैं वो expectation होती थी कि auditors जो हैं वो physically present होंगे stock takes में, और एक लंबी चौड़ी कहानी होती थी उसमें. तो जैसे एक मैं तो बैकग्राउंड बैंकिंग से है, तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह हमारे पास तो स्टॉक टेक्स की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है इतनी, लेकिन जस्ट वांटेड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि आप लोग किस तरह से मैनेज कर रहे हैं इस प्रोसेस को. खुरम और पानो, आई गेस दोनों का कोई व्यूज होंगे इस चीज पे. आई डोंट नो नुमान इफ यू हैव अ व्यू ऑफ दिस.
आई थिंक again, the first thing was the code was to keep everybody safe, right? Colleagues and your customers safe. So, and I think retailers generally have spent a lot of time, effort, and money in making those spaces, the retail shops, the warehouses, safe and to apply social distancing rules. So I think थोड़े से challenge था, लेकिन working with the auditors and working with our sort of staff on the ground, we were able to make those places safe so people can go and the auditors can go and actually do a physical stock take. In certain situations, virtual, on through video as well. But I think luckily, a lot of people in the industry were able to make premises safe for people to go in and do the right job.
And I guess I'll echo
Sahi.
that, like in Shoaib, hamare paas bhi, we had a lot of technology-aided drones, which were, kind of used for stock taking. Jahan pe unka use kiya gaya, videos banai gayi, all of that could also help understand and analyze stock. So data was used in that kind of capacity. So हमने देखा है कि a lot of stock taking also happened virtually, and use of technology was quite enhanced in stock taking.
Well, that's interesting. Thank you. So, usme cyber security, that's another element I think, we all get concerned about, especially the heavy user technology ka, or I think Noman ne refer bhi kiya tha EUC, end user computing ki taraf. तो उसमें auditors perhaps again I would expect कि आपका जो focus है towards IT and cyber security वो इस साल कुछ ज़्यादा होगा I think.
हाँ, हम लोग as part of our, when we do the overall assessment of the control environment and the IT and what are the key risks which may impact cybersecurity has been quite a topical thing जिसको हम focus करें, especially like मैंने ये देखा है जहाँ पे industries such as asset managers and wealth managers जहाँ पे आपका data is very available, वहाँ पे cyber attacks are very common. तो because लोग आपका डेटा यूज करके for different purposes उसको कर रहे होते हैं, तो उसके ऊपर फोकस भी बहुत है, not just from the auditors but from the management as well, because they are the one who are really key responsibilities उनके ऊपर हैं that they protect the data of their people and their customers, right? So they have had aided enhanced the controls around cyber security. Or specific things have been put in place, और हम भी उसको make sure कर रहे हैं कि has there been any loss of data, we keep a very close eye on that.
Okay, thank you. Just for the audience, I think if we are receiving some questions, so please feel free to send them across. We'll try to pick them up with the colleagues over here as well. जैसे questions आते हैं. एक question आया हमारे पास कि I think Bano perhaps आपसे पूछ लेते हैं इस चीज को कि related party transactions. Do you see that as a high risk area in the current environment as well? Okay, to support financials basically, or to bottom line, you consider more risk in that space?
I think related party transactions from where you have groups supporting each other and the structures are quite complex. ये हमेशा से एक high risk, or you said area of audit focus, right? क्योंकि usually completeness of that information, क्या links हैं वो सब हमेशा थोड़ा सा dilute हो जाता है by the time it comes to everybody else. So related party transaction has been a very big area of focus. और अभी भी जो area of focus which links to it is who's supporting the institutions or the fund, subsidiaries, and how would that money flow and up down. Because it's very easy to say you're part of a group entity, but will that group entity actually support the last subsidy is not is the big question we've been challenging a lot. Okay, you say you are part of a group, you have group support, but what related party transaction from that angle becomes quite important to focus on.
I agree. I think liquidity trap है या कोई legal restrictions आ जाती हैं इस चीज में. So that's a good point, and we'll come back to it थोड़ा later on. Moving on, the second theme I just wanted to pick up, or third theme, in fact, wanted to pick up on was कि एक तो obviously Noman और खुरम का views लूंगा मैं क्या है. खुरम ने already mentioned किया कि stakeholder management. Noman interested in how आप कैसे manage कर रहे हैं अपने auditors के साथ. लेकिन जो main point है कि आप लोगों की global teams हैं, you're talking about hundreds of people perhaps globally set out, and unki management making sure कि people are focused on the deliverables and they don't feel lost basically. वो किस तरह कर रहे हैं आप इस environment में? And again फिर वापस आऊँगा बानो की तरफ. So start with Noman, Khurram, and then Bano. And Bano particularly आपके लिए तो I think आपका तो you end up dealing largely जो fresh graduates हैं या पाकिस्तान में जिस तरह fresh आते हैं articleship के लिए trainees, तो उनके लिए तो it's a bigger challenge कि आप किस तरह remotely उनको make sure कि वो they deliver on the right kind of stuff you want. So starting with Noman, how are you managing the auditors, and then move on to how are you managing your team internally as well?
I think from an auditor's perspective, jo interaction, communication with auditors has been more regular. rather than compared to previously. So I think उसमें communication का main element है कि you're talking to the auditors regularly, you have an open dialogue. I mean that is extremely important कि you treat auditors with confidence and trust. So communication has been quite important when we are dealing with them. जो भी आपके issues हैं, I mean, for example, you discuss them regularly, quarterly, not waiting for anything later during the year. Any of the key accounting judgments जो होती हैं, you need to discuss them as you go, like on a quarterly, monthly, regular basis, rather than just waiting for the year end. So that's on the audit side. I think from a staff perspective, and especially in the last few months or last 2 months, we could feel and see the staff getting more challenged. तो so थोड़ा अब जो लॉकडाउन का इम्पैक्ट हो रहा है स्टाफ के ऊपर, and I have had people mentioning that they're missing the human touch as well. So उसके लिए as an organization, what I've seen is that there has been a bit more empathy as an organization, the tone from the top, more communication from the senior management, and then we are having more I guess social meetings as well, just trying to have some kind of level of engagement. And thirdly, there has been a lot of focus on work flexibility. क्योंकि आपको पता है कि काफी लोगों के ज़ाहिर बच्चे भी घर पे हैं, तो just managing the child care routine. So people have been quite respectful कि जिसको अगर थोड़ा time during the day चाहिए तो वो थोड़ा off लेके people are juggling various things. So I have seen like there have been a lot more human touch and empathy, which is quite important to keep staff motivated. But having said that, I think thoda toll le raha hai just the way people are working.
Yeah, and I think to add to what Noman said, I absolutely agree. Communication is the key. Regular contact with the auditors, agreeing the key issues upfront. Because generally, you do that and normally as part of audit anyway. You talk about what are the key issues, but what's important here is, how do you manage them and making auditors actually taking them along with you. Okay, business is changing so fast, so quick. One of the key thing I think we may come on to later on is viability, going concern, the impact on impairment, etc. Now, viability ki jab baat aati hai, to you take basically we had to rip apart our finance corporate plans and rebuild them again and again and again and again every 3 weeks. And which is your baseline case? What is a reasonable worst case? And are you comfortable as a business? First of all, you as a business need to be comfortable ke haan bhai, this is what my baseline, my best view is ke ye mera baseline hai, and this is my best view of the reasonable worst case, and this is absolute worst case. And then taking auditors along with you, because we're all trying to do the right thing, and letting reader of the accounts tell them the true and fair view of the financial position. So that's on the audit side. I think internally your teams baat hai, absolutely teams are stretched. There's no doubt about it, right? Especially finance teams. Or it's all about talking to them. It's all about saying to them ke it's okay कि आपने between 10 and 10:30 you've taken 30 minutes and had a cup of tea with your family. It's okay to do that. We're all human beings, right? And I think if a leader and if the management is sort of giving the right vibes and telling them people, "Yeah, theek hai, I know you work very late. We all work very late. Nothing of we can do here that can change that. But what we can do is, is accept the reality ke agar aapne आधा घंटा निकालना है to spend time with your son and do maths homework, that's absolutely fine to do that." And regularly talk to the team, weekly, bi-weekly catch-ups, even if it's for 15 minutes. And if you don't need to say anything, that's fine. You can have your 15 minutes back, but at least having those regular touch points are very important.
Thank you, Param. Banu, aapke liye, I think you already have my question, so over to you.
So I guess from my perspective, I echo what they're saying कि जी आपका regular connection with audit teams or management होगा, smoothly manage किया जाएगा. But मैंने in audit firms ज़्यादातर देखा, and maybe correct me on that, but audit firms का ज़्यादा population is made up of people who come here to make a career. तो हमारी जो ज़्यादातर staff membership, जो staff का composition है वो लोग होते हैं जिनकी families abroad होती हैं और वो खुद यहाँ पे आके job कर रहे होते हैं. तो COVID में उन ऐसे लोगों के लिए it was quite stressful not being able to go back home, do their holidays, not be part of family events and stuff like that. So all of that took a very big toll on them as well. फिर दूसरा जो एक challenge audit में होता है वो ये है, we have a intake of graduate intakes at 1.2 times in the year, like September, May, and then in around April, May time. And you're talking about 500-600 people coming into the business suddenly. ठीक है, और ये नए लोग होते हैं, energized होते हैं, want to be part of people, want to be part of teams, engage with leaders and everything. वो जो था हमारे लिए काफी tough था to decide कि हम लोगों को लेके आ रहे हैं और हम उनको remote onboarding कैसे देंगे. So remote onboarding was a very big challenge. Okay, the IT could be delivered to their houses, whatever, but we would always bring them with a bag of 600 people, welcomed by the chairman in a big room with a lot of partners, engagement, excitement. वो चीज़ अब हो नहीं सक रही थी, तो all of that had to somehow shift to technology कि हम वो online उनको करवाएं, but in a smaller group कि वो impact personalize हो सके. तो हमें वो सारा कुछ करना पड़ा. दूसरी बात है, जब टीम के अंदर आया तो वी वर ऑलरेडी टोल्ड एज टीम लीडर्स कि मेक श्योर कि आप अपने सबसे जूनियर मेंबर स्टाफ के साथ कॉफी पॉइंट रखें, टच पॉइंट रखें. वी बीन डूइंग ऑल ऑफ दैट एंड आई हैव एनकरेज टीम्स टू सिट टुगेदर इन अ वर्चुअल ऑडिट रूम. तो हम उनको एक वर्चुअल ऑडिट रूम देते हैं 3 घंटे के लिए. दे कीप आस्किंग क्वेश्चंस, ये कैसे करना है, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन कैसे होनी है, ये वो. सो इट बिकम्स अ गुड कोचिंग एंड ऑन द जॉब कोचिंग जो है वो ऑनलाइन करवाई जाए. What I do eventually is we've all got different techniques. I have a 5-minute with almost every team, all team members every day, but I don't use it to talk about how are you doing. I use it to do something fun with them. So it could be like doing a 5-minute just ask how your day has been, what are you doing, a little bit of a stretch exercise on the chair. So trying to make it a bit more interactive, that वो चीज़ जो आपका easy होती थी interact करने की वो continued रहा है. Because everybody is anyway pressurized, working from home, people living on their own, people have the issue of homeschooling. वो सारी चीजें हैं, but how do we make sure we can break through those barriers? तो हम लोगों ने different teams के ideas लेके we have asked them to be interactive. So I think for us the key thing is keeping the people motivated, because these hours and एक चीज जो होम वर्किंग से हुई है वो है it's kind of lost the discipline between office hour and work, home hours. So homeschooling भी चल रही है, वो आपका everything has become a bit blurred, if I may say. तो इसीलिए वो चीज बहुत important है. So we've got we put different challenges between together कि आज कितने steps कोई करेगा, आज कितने reps of exercise को करेगा, those kind of things. So I would say कि from a people perspective it's become bad thing is you don't have the physical touch, but on the positive side I will say I got to know a lot of my people in a very different sense than I did before. So that's where I would take it.
Thank you, that's very interesting. I think आपने जो बात की उस पे I've been using this quite often हमारी internal discussions में भी कि जो working from home के साथ problem ये है कि you can't differentiate, either you're working from home or you're sleeping in the office. तो वो जो है एक लाइन उसके पे ड्रॉ करना कि बाउंड्री आपकी क्या है, कहाँ है, वो एक बड़ा मुश्किल काम हो जाता है. एक क्वेश्चन आया and I think it's a good question, very good question. I'll go around to each of you guys. Okay, one single thing you would use to motivate your team members in the current environment. So start with Bono.
Okay, I share a lot about my personal life. Like I live on my own and everything, and I have team members जिनका same circumstances है. So I make sure कि मैं उनको बताऊं कि how do I feel. People don't generally want to talk about how do they feel, in this. So if I feel I have a crap day, I tell them I have a crap day, right? So वो आप अपना personalize करें, it helps them. And the other thing is I keep saying, yes, we will all be going back home sometime to meet our parents and family. So stay on top of it.
मतलब एक personal connection अपना develop करें, I think, with the team. So then that helps.
I think if you are honest, Shoaib, if you are honest about yourself, वो बहुत बड़ी चीज होती है. अगर आप सब कुछ रोजी है और सब कुछ अच्छा है, मुझे तो कुछ impact ही नहीं हुआ, doesn't really work that way.
True. That's good. Noma?
I mean, what I try to do is that I first of all try to give them the message that the role which they are playing, each and every individual, is very important for the whole organization. So I try to link their role to the big picture. For example, if someone is working in the reg reporting team, working on risk-weighted assets, why his role is so important in the group CET1 ratio, which is like the most important metric for the group CFO or CEO. So I guess I try to get that link to make sure like they know that their role is important. And secondly, also being respectful of their personal requirements while they're working. जो flexibility का element है, being a bit respectful for that. So those are the two key things I try to focus on.
Thank you. Again, that's very important. I think making individuals realize how they're contributing to the wider equation. I think that's very important. Khurram, your comments on this?
I think it's a combination of things really. पर जो one-to-ones, जैसे मेरे जो one-to-ones होते हैं, I try not to talk about work, right? क्योंकि work तो we talk about from 9 to 9, right? So and it's more about trying to have conversation about their development, because don't forget the development is important. As Bano said, graduates are and they're all career motivated, and generally finance and all organizations, they're all very highly motivated individuals, want to do well, and to keep an eye on their development and talk about themselves कि क्या है, क्या सही हो रहा है, क्या नहीं हो रहा, give feedback, and bring that flexibility ke if I say ke bhai you can take 10 minutes off, I really mean it. I'm not saying it just because I'm not going to call you in that 10 minutes ke yaar wo report karni le jani hai aur kya karna hai. So I think you need to be respectful of their flexibility, but then mean it ke yes, it's okay, and don't forget about development. That's very important.
I think it's ये भी एक अच्छा पॉइंट है कि पहले बड़ी ये जो हमारी ऑनलाइन मीटिंग्स वगैरह होती थी बड़ी फॉर्मल होती थी, और जो है लोग बड़ा डिसिप्लिन अभी भी है फॉर्मल, लेकिन अब कोई इतना मसला नहीं है कि अगर बच्चा आपका पीछे रो रहा है तो इट्स ओके, इट्स पार्ट ऑफ लाइफ. वो भी यू हैव टू डील विद दैट एज वेल, एंड उस पे कोई ऑफेंस नहीं लेता कि यार ये क्या मजाक लगाया हुआ इस बंदे ने. तो ये एक बड़ा शिफ्ट एक आ गया है कि आपका ह्यूमन एलिमेंट जो है इन द ऑफिस स्पेस वो बढ़ गया है थोड़ा ओवर टाइम. So that's good. अच्छा, let's move on to another thing. Okay, it's a bit more of a technical theme. And again, 2-3 questions इस चीज पे भी हमारे पास आ चुके हैं. Key accounting judgment. Okay, and I think again I'll start with Noman first. Okay, give me 2 या 3 जो you consider in your role. Okay, as you go through the corporate reporting cycle, कि कौन सी key accounting judgments हैं, and how are you coming to, or how are you supporting your conclusions आपकी जो उन judgments पे हो रही हैं. I mean, banks के लिए तो obviously number of things are there, लेकिन 2 या 3, and just sort of explain how आप कैसे comfortable हो रहे हैं in your role as chief accounting officer कि भाई जो conclusion है that is sufficient and appropriate to support your financial statement.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, as you can expect, the first thing to talk about is IFRS 9 ECL, expected credit losses. So I guess the 3 things to highlight would be that one is that mostly because of the market dislocation or the current environment, the outputs coming out of the models might not be the most intuitive one, right? So there has been an increased use of model adjustments for timing of default and credit judgments. So that is quite an important part के जो model adjustments हैं वो उसका क्या output हो रहा है. Secondly, there has been an increased focus on sensitivity analysis and the various ECL outcomes. So again, how those sensitivities have been arrived at. From a governance perspective, throughout the year, there has been so much focus on the ECL number, and this has involved the finance and risk teams both, review and challenge in various committees. Obviously, the auditors have provided quite a robust challenge to the process as well. And thirdly, I mean, from a governance perspective, the audit committees I have seen play a very vocal and engaged role in the challenge and review of ECLs as well. So in a nutshell, I saw like whatever output is coming in, how people are looking at it, and whether the answer is reasonable or not. And from a market perspective as well, there has been quite a lot of focus on ECLs as well, given how big the numbers have been. So that was ECL. The second thing I would like to highlight is the valuation of non-financial assets. And this does not only include goodwill, but it also includes software assets, other intangibles, as well as property and buildings. And within these valuations, we have been looking at the VIU calculations, what management assumptions are being used, what discount rates are being used, how the expected cash flows, future cash flows are being calculated. So again, I mean, you could see various financial statements that given the market environment, how the forecast and future cash flows have been affected. So various organizations have been recording impairments as well. So that also has been going through a lot of review and challenge and governance as well. The last thing I want to highlight from my side was just for the benefit of my banking colleagues out there, is the focus on risk-weighted assets and CET1 ratio and liquidity as well. Specifically, given the deterioration of credit portfolios during the pandemic, this has increased risk-weighted assets because of rating migrations and downgrades, and that has had an adverse impact on CET1 ratio. So from a bank's perspective, when they're maintaining capital ratios, this is also quite an important thing to monitor and ensure that your risk-weighted assets are accurate as well. So those are the kind of three things I wanted to highlight, and we'll leave the floor for Khurram if he wants to add anything else.
Thank you. Sorry, before we go to Khurram, Numan, I think you mentioned post-model adjustment की जो बात की ECL expected credit losses के लिए under IFRS 9. I think again एक बड़ी topical चीज है आजकल चल रही है discussions में कि भाई post-model adjustment, models generally they are not able to deal with जो भी हो रहा है macroeconomically या जो भी multiple variables आ सकते हैं in calculation of ECL. But post-model adjustments आती हैं तो आई थिंक उसमें भी एक चैलेंज ये आता है कि यू हैव टू जस्टिफाई कि भाई किस बेसिस पे आप लेके आ रही है पोस्ट मॉडल एडजस्टमेंट. सो उसमें भी थोड़ा बहुत आपको एक्स्ट्रा काम करना पड़ जाता है कि भाई आई थिंक ऑडिटर्स इतना इजीली सेटिस्फाई नहीं होते कि भाई क्यों. और जो सिनारियोस का जो मेरा अपना एक्सपीरियंस है कि यू आर एब्सोल्युटली राइट के पहले 3 सिनारियोस थे या 4 सिनारियोस थे, तो वो एक और उसमें एडेड आ गए हैं कि भाई डाउन साइड के 2 या 3 एक्स्ट्रा साउंड सिनारियोस डाल दो और बेस केस का जो है वो चलो ठीक है, एक ठीक है, लेकिन मतलब ये एक बड़ा एक इट्स अ मूविंग पीस ऑल द टाइम कि किस तरह से you get to the right answer, although it may not still be the right answer, lekin you try to give it your best. And so I agree with you on those both of those
and
points.
Just to add why it is so challenging and so uncertain is कि आप अगर एक example देखें कि until last year Bank of England and the regulators were getting all sorts of stress testing for banks, right? हर किस्म का उन्होंने scenario cover कर लिया था, climate हो गया, terrorism हो गया, but no one would have thought that we would be hit something like a pandemic which would shut the world down.
I think that's a very good point.
So that is why we are dealing with the ऐसी situation कभी किसी ने पहले नहीं देखी, so that is why it has made things more interesting.
नहीं, I agree with you. Khurram, over to you. I think आपका तो फिर retail side से है, तो उस तरफ क्या की judgment areas क्या देख रहे हैं और how are you getting yourself comfortable again in your role के जो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स के हिसाब से आप बोर्ड को सेटिस्फाई कर सकें कि भाई ये जजमेंट्स एंड ऑडिटर्स एज वेल के अप्रोप्रिएट है.
I think very linked to what's happening in the banking. The main thing is viability and going concern. Up as a retailer, when shops are shut, if you have an online platform, आप online move कर जाते हैं, then you do retain some of the trading, which is sort of mixed for food retailers. They've sort of done very well, and non-food haven't so. तो उसमें the key thing around कि क्या what is your base case? I think scenarios की भी तो बाद में बात आती है. What is your base case? Because अब retail में in particular, you know, golden quarter जो है, Black Friday, Christmas, where most of the retailers make a lot of money. So if you assume a lockdown assumption around Black Friday, it has a complete different financial outcome than if you assume it's at the start of a year. So I think we've had quite a lot of challenge internally ourselves first. Okay, what is our base case? And then apply that and then work on certain scenarios, certain lockdown assumptions, as I said, reasonable worst case, and 5 additional scenarios just to make sure that you're able to survive under all of these or not. And then the key judgment in that is, okay, sales scenario, you can run as many as you want, but what mitigations do you actually have available that you can enact yourself? क्या cost control measures आपके पास हैं, क्या cash control measures आपके पास हैं, how confident you are in applying those measures. So that has been one of the very challenging area, both internally to run the business, number one, and also to deal with auditors and report in the financial statements. The only thing, another thing I would add to that is that you may have a situation where you can manage liquidity. ठीक है ना, आपने downside scenarios हैं, and you can cover, you have enough cash or you have enough banking facilities to manage that downside. But your covenant compliance, you may actually breach your covenant well before you have an issue with your liquidity. So the profit impact and reviewing that, and again mitigations available to ensure that you don't breach your covenants, those that have been really the top on the agenda. Linking to that is of course goodwill and asset impairment. So one of the issues we face, of course, goodwill generally, but also you have a store state. And if the stores are shut, there's no income coming in. So traditional models आप run करें impairment के, so that will suggest basically you impair the whole lot. But the reality is different, and the same adjustment that you're talking in the banking world, we had to apply in the retail world. Okay, what online benefit that you get is because you have stores, and how the sales that you generate overall, so how much of that is attributed because you have a store state. So a lot of complicated and challenging discussions that we've had with the auditors along those lines. And I think the third one is provisioning. So stock that is in stores and the store is shut. So if you अगर आप stores में stock access नहीं कर पाते और वो season चला जाता है, I mean we faced that during Black Friday, like lockdown था, and how do you manage that? And it all depends. आपका distribution network कैसा है? How can you get hold of that stock? Click and collect open है या नहीं है? So many variables going into all that thinking, and every variable, you change this slightly, you get a completely different answer. So what is the right combination has been the most challenging.
Yeah, that's very true. I think that's an important point. We'll come back to technology ka jo hai. I think we'll pick it up later as well. Okay, how it has helped retail may specifically as a catalyst to change the business and models as well. Banu, over to you. आपके लिए question obviously simple सा question है, but it's a very difficult question as well. कि आप अपने आप को कैसे satisfy करेंगे ये जो सारी judgments हो रही हैं with significant assumptions. I think with information which is perhaps I won't say half cooked, but it's not there, but it is there in a way. So there are significant judgments involved जो management ले रही है. तो आप लोग कैसे अपने आप को satisfy कर रहे हैं in this environment के as auditors के these are appropriate?
Yeah, so I guess यहाँ से start करते हैं. जैसा one of the biggest impacts we've seen जो COVID का आया था वो था viability and going concern, right? COVID related disclosure, making sure there is the viability of the firm that they will continue. So it was not just the responsibility of the audit team. हमें management ने जो information दी, we explained them that now we have internal panels. Most of the firms had introduced a second layer of challenge for the audit team. So we had internal panels जो हमें assess करते थे on our judgment कि ये going concern है, viable है या नहीं है. And they were very experienced partners who would come and challenge us on our assessment of what did we say to the management, what are the information which is making us believe that it's a going concern, and then how are we documenting. They would ask us to go ahead and either approve that or ask for more information from management. So हमारा internal process भी काफी heavy हो गया था to make sure we are doing the right thing from an audit perspective. दूसरी बात है कि जो focus areas थे, like different areas such as like not just going concern, harder to value assets, real estate, जिसमें material uncertainties भी थी, सारा कुछ था. उसमें भी further challenge and involvement of our specialists, right, you know, got to a level where it wasn't there before. पहले हम बहुत सारी चीजें risk based पे कर सकती थी, अब हमारे पास specialists थे sector by sector जो हमें help कर रहे थे to identify what kind of risks would be there within the portfolio. तो मैंने ये देखा कि over time, because of COVID, the challenge within the firm also increased, and also the use of specialists, you know, in all assessing what we are doing is correct and helping us then go back to the management with relevant challenges is there. So मैंने ये feel किया in this period कि हमारा specialist involvement, challenge internally, and going back to the management increase. And then obviously our interaction on these topics with the board was immense. Like कोई भी चीज थी जहाँ पे आपने, you know, assets के ऊपर आपकी discussions थी, leveling के ऊपर थी, how are they seeing, what is the thing, that also increased quite a bit. So the oversight of the audit committee on different aspects was very, you know, we had to have more discussions, in-depth discussions with them. मेरे part of the business जहाँ asset management में मैंने acquisitions and consolidation भी काफी देखा, because you know this year obviously आपके अपने different budgets नहीं meet हो रहे थे, different चीजें थी. So all of that was quite an area of focus कि कहाँ पे growth आ रही है, organic है, through acquisitions हैं, what are they taking on board, you know, all the risks that were coming through. So a lot of those discussions meant a lot more involvement of different parts of the business in coming to that conclusion, whether for the audit as well.
Thank you. I think in summary, I guess आपका engagement with management, use of specialists बढ़ गया है, and I think there's significant challenge being provided by auditors कि जो भी आपकी judgments वगैरह ले रहे हैं तो उस चीज पे. So thank you, that's very helpful. Moving on, एक और चीज I think we will pick up on is कि किस तरह की narrative reporting हो रही है, you know, additional disclosures around going concern, around the market situation, forward-looking statements, etc. के business पे क्या impact है, and so on. So जो stakeholders की messaging या shareholders की messaging जो है, उसको किस तरह से manage कर रहे हैं आप लोग? Let's start with Khurram, with you first, I guess. Are you expecting there will be more enhanced reporting around the whole environment and the challenges being faced, and what impact they could have on the institution or organization?
Yeah, I think it has had an impact क्योंकि पहले जो your traditional reporting, you know, KPIs were fine, and people could understand, but COVID has completely changed, you know, in retail profitability. You know, you have if there's a store, it has a certain level of profitability, and if you move online, it has a certain level of profitability, and then, you know, online जाने की वजह से, you know, it has higher fulfillment cost, customer acquisition, and return. So the first thing is to try and explain to stakeholders how the P&L works, right? So that has meant that you know, we had to go out and, you know, talk to investors and explain a bit more around how the profit works, how COVID impacts the profit, but also more and more emphasis on cash flow. Cash flow has always been there, but I think more emphasis, especially in this year, around cash flow, cash generation, your working capital. Try and explain to your stakeholders around what, you know, working capital impact you've had due to COVID. And also your numbers have been distorted by, you know, government support. Depending on the country, there's various level of government supports that has had an impact on your cash. So is it underlying improvement, or is it because you've had a boost because of government? And if you have had a boost because of government support, what has it offset? What was your loss that you suffered because of COVID? So I think it has made it more complicated just to explain your P&L and your cash position. And I think that's something that's sort of evolving. It started, you know, improving, and more companies are sort of showing improved disclosures around that. In the sense आपका जो cash flow and the downside scenario, which I keep coming back to, one of the things that has been challenging and important to discuss with the stakeholders has been what is your plan? What is happening? Can you give us any guidance? What are your sort of, how do next 6 and 12 months look like? And that has been an ongoing debate and discussion. And because of uncertainty, it can be as high as you can make it, or as low as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's helpful. Noman, over to you. आपके क्या views हैं इस चीज़ पे?
Yeah, I think like the narrative reporting, the forward-looking statements. I mean, we spend a significant amount of time on this, including especially during this year, COVID-related disclosures. In the UK, as you know, the FRC, the Financial Reporting Council, has also issued some guidance on those kind of disclosures. But the COVID-related disclosures, what has been the impact on customers, what have been the impact on employees, specifically in relation to customers, how have we supported customers, those kind of disclosures are quite important. Secondly, geopolitical risk, this whole last 2020 year, and I mean for us being a global organization across the world, the impact of various global tensions, how do we maneuver ourselves through that? So we need to also comment on that. Thirdly, the market environment, again from a bank's perspective, the lower interest rate environment is quite a tough environment. So we need to also bring that to the table, talk about it, that how we are addressing that from a business perspective, and also how we are addressing that from a risk management perspective. That is quite important. And lastly, and I think this I will also try to talk about it in the end when we talk about business lessons and stuff, but the ESG reporting, the whole focus on the topic of ESG, the disclosures we are giving, the expectation from investors and analysts on ESG disclosures, including climate and social and governance, that is getting more and more important day by day.
Thank you, Noman. एक चीज I think you mentioned, and I know we've got a global audience right now, and maybe people may want to use it. लेकिन FRC जो Financial Reporting Council है जो UK में, which जो regulator है basically overseeing financial reporting and audit as well to an extent, उन्होंने एक बड़ी अच्छी guidance दी है going concern disclosures वगैरह पे in the current environment. तो अगर globally जो भी हमारी audience है उसको use करना चाहे तो I think it is available online and that might be helpful too. Bano, over to you. आपके जो expectations हैं कुछ as auditor के there will be enhanced narrative reporting and that's beyond your remit, but obviously you are engaging, you are one of the key stakeholders in the process as well.
Yeah, so I guess, as you said, like I do see a lot more reporting happening narratively on different aspects of the business and, social well-being, diversity, all these topics have become quite topical to be included in different part of the financial reporting, front end, back end. तो मैं इन जो बात नुमान ने और खुरम ने की है उससे agree करती हूँ कि a lot of reporting on different factors, which is forward-looking, has increased in your, financial reporting and what the customers or your basic stakeholders are now asking for.
Thank you. एक चीज जो I guess again linked to this in a way, and again a question for you, Bano. The risk of bankruptcy and fraud is heightened in the current environment. And I go back to the question, I think we picked up on this earlier as well. इस environment में फिर आप लोग किस तरह से as an auditor एक stakeholder management का तो issue रहा है कि audit reports किस तरह से क्या cover करती हैं, fraud के always we have this discussion by auditors जो है responsible नहीं है for fraud. Equally, I think bankruptcies के लिए liquidation में चले जाते हैं businesses, तो उस पे भी आता है. तो इसमें क्या आप देख रहे हैं कुछ anything different इस साल in terms of how you are managing it?
So you mean to say doing more work around all of this?
Exactly.
Yeah. So जिस तरह मैंने पहले भी कहा था श्वेत कि हम लोगों ने we have assessed कि ये जिस तरह आपके manual controls थे ये IT controls में कैसे convert हुए वो हमारा काफी focus रहा कि all the controls as they state the management states are operative हम उसको evidence कर सके हमने वो चीज पे काफी focus रखा दूसरी चीजें work home में हमने in different aspect of our business different of my engagement we did also have some discussions with forensic partners जो हमें थोड़ा सा गाइड करें कि कहाँ पे लूप होल्स हो सकते हैं जो हम जनरली नहीं एज अ पार्ट ऑफ ऑडिट देख रहे बट हमें असेस करना चाहिए फॉर डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ बिजनेसेस दैट एक्चुअली gave us an increased focus or a vision of कहाँ पे आपका fraud risk ज़्यादा हो सकता है और जहाँ पे हम उनको satisfy कर सक रहे थे okay this is not a risk for us this is not a risk for us when we had a lot more focused approach on those areas. So as I said, कुछ चीजें तो हमारी definitely change हुई हैं, use of specialists, having more interaction, a support system within the firm that was suddenly put together to make sure कि हम सारे aspects को अच्छी तरह manage कर सके, ये तो definitely हुआ है. So I hope that answers.
No, thank you. It does in a way, I guess, usual आपके auditors with their disclaimers and so on. Let's pick up on a few questions. I think एक question आया है, maybe Noman, आपके लिए banking related है कि with a significant number of people working from home, particularly in the front office. So have you seen a change in terms of the controls around the financial information passing through to you? क्या कोई additional controls आए हैं कि how do you manage the risk of fraud and error again to an extent? I think वही बात आ जाती है.
I think one of the question was also touching upon like front office controls when traders are working from home. So obviously from a bank perspective, whatever controls we can put in place, for example, ensuring that, they're using secured ways to do their transactions. But in addition to that, focus has been on, the transactions are within the, the thresholds of gain or losses. So there are certain, I guess, detective controls which are in play to ensure that if there is anything happening, it is picked up. But it is a heightened environment anyways. Yes, there are more controls being put into place from a detective perspective. But yeah, I think we need to see how it all pans out. But we haven't seen any instances where things have gone wrong so far. The operating model and the control environment has been resilient so far.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think operationally resilient तो banks रहे हैं, but I think एक जो हमारे again banking में concept एक बड़ा चलता है 3 lines of defense का model जो, तो उनके भी roles जो हैं I think during the last year थोड़े shift हो गए हैं. We have more active second and third line of defense, जो at least मैं देख रहा हूँ कि जो हमारे second line of defense जो risk function हो गया, for example, market risk हो गया, operational risk हो गया, credit risk हो गया, उनका activity बढ़ गई है. Equally internal audit भी एक उन्होंने अपना pattern change कर लिया है कि अपने operate किस तरह कर रहे हैं, किस तरह coverage दे रहे हैं इस चीज को.
I completely agree. I think काफी ज़्यादा second line risk rewards का काफी ज़्यादा focus है. There's a lot more focus on review and challenge. And again, yes, internal audit has been quite more actively involved in supporting the management and supporting the audit committee in doing some of the reviews.
ठीक है, thank you. One more question, and this would be all three of you in a way. Are you seeing a change in your reporting deadlines? You giving yourself more time in this current environment? Let's start with Khurram. I mean, I don't know if it's market sensitive. I don't, of course, like market sensitive information.
No. I think generally speaking, no. Generally speaking, no. I think as long as we are prepared, which is what we are all planning for, or you discuss these issues early, and I think, as I said, a tip of doing a hard close earlier than P12. I don't see any change in the reporting deadline. I think reporting deadlines, the immediately जब COVID hit हुआ था, and then those companies which were sort of doing their annual reports around March, April, May time, because of the uncertainty, they did have some grace period, and also allowed by FRC. So I think at the moment we are not expecting.
Sure, I guess from our perspective, I think when the pandemic started, the Q1 and Q2 reporting, so there was some, I guess, regulatory deliverables which were, submitted later with the regulators' permission and stuff. But I think as we have seen that, this is not going away, we have adopted our ways of working, and for year-end reporting, we are just going to stick to our original timetable. So शुरू में थोड़ा challenge था, but I think over the course of the period, we have adapted to it.
Adapted to it. They say, a quote I read recently, adaptability is mother of all inventions, I think, it comes down to the Banu. From your perspective, audit delivery, any significant change you're seeing in terms of timelines and so on?
Not really, and not anymore, Shoaib. Before we last year, मतलब जब 2020 के अंदर थे तो हमें delays भी आए थे, कुछ issues भी face हो रहे थे, and that was all okay because sometimes for large institutional reporting, deadlines were pushed by compromise because आपकी component report नहीं कर सक रहे थे. Not all countries were ready with all the technology and everything, right? So it made a little bit of a difference. But now I think सारे ज़्यादा prepared हैं. The focus or informed discussions होती रही हैं with the management. So I haven't really seen कि आप अभी deliver नहीं कर सक रहे अपने time scheduled timetable पे.
Oh, thank you. It puts us under more pressure, but बात ये कि over the last year, I think everyone has adapted to the situation by and large. So we're working towards that. That's good. One more question, and this is more on the, I guess, the more important softer side of things, mental health. I think we again touched on how you sort of empathy and so on. You can question lockdown, isolation, and so on. It's maybe mental health challenges. We in the UK are recognizing mental health as a serious issue. I think there's more recognition of this generally. Corona के बाद उस चीज को कोई any particular points you think in terms of supporting your teams and so on, and how you managing that? How are you supporting your people? Let's start with Banu again.
Yeah, sure. Mental well-being and general well-being is a big agenda item, firm-wide भी और personally भी सबके लिए. So a lot of support mechanism have been put in place. Counseling है, talk lines हैं, सारा कुछ है. Personal level पे mental well-being के लिए जो मैंने as a team सबको कहा हुआ है कि make sure कि you definitely have 3 breaks within the day from your laptop, where you just go and sit and close your eyes, be in grateful position, and just be thankful. Gratitude में अगर आप बंदा रहे तो अपना well-being को थोड़ा control कर सकता है. Go out for, यहाँ पे आपको पता है कि आप इतनी restrictions हैं, you can't go out, you can't do this, but once a day अगर आप बाहर निकल के fresh air लो, all of that will just work towards your mental well-being. So definite focus है, बार-बार repeated messages हैं from the leadership, and support circle भी develop हुआ हुआ. So I would say one thing to
sorry, go on. Yeah.
No, that's what I was just thinking, especially for the younger generation, I would say. People, जो अभी graduate हैं, trainees हैं, assistant managers हैं, उसमें ज़्यादा bulk of मुझे tension feel होता है, because उनके पास वो support नहीं है. So we have to really keep close to that generation of our staff, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, all I will add is again, a lot of support from the organization, like helplines, and so if you want to talk to someone, but again, the message to us as senior leaders from the top is talk to your teams, ask them how are they doing, how are they feeling. So we need to continue having that personal touch in our conversations, but again, we are also individuals who are also going through the same thing. So जो हम करते हैं, like what I try to do for my mental well-being, I just try to share with my teams. Again, exercise is a very, very important thing. Whatever you can do, I think exercise helps more mentally than physically in the current environment. So being physically active is quite important, and just trying to see, just talking to people, making sure you can hear them out is quite important as well.
That's a very good point, and I'll come back to that as well. Khurram, I think आपके views ले लें इस चीज़ पे.
I think it's same thing. The only thing I would add, what we've also done is we've said, golden hour, right? 1 hour where no meetings take place in the organization, the whole organization. So it forces people to just take a break. Now, of course, practically speaking, sometimes you do end up having those meetings. It just forces you to be away from your computer, and that's organization wide. So कि आपका कोई pair या कोई other department में, they won't be asking you to have a meeting at the same time. And
Yeah,
personal, touch, and when you have those one-to-ones with your team, it's not all about work. It's about कैसे हो, क्या हाल है, घर में सब ठीक है, the usual conversation.
I understand that. And I think उसमें मान की बात, I mean, मेरा personal experience तो यही है कि exercise is a very important point, a very important element. I think just physically do some activity to refresh yourself. If nothing else, just to tire yourself, that you can have a good sleep as well. I think that makes a lot of difference as well. Few more questions. Let me pick up on one or two others. Let me just start with. I think we will probably pick up on this anyways. But let's business lessons. I think outside. We have all हमारे roles each level पे हैं कि we have significant interaction and responsibility for the business as well, and how we sort of support them and so on. What would you see as the key business lessons learned through the last year on the back of this whole COVID situation? Let's start with Khurram, and I think particularly for you, I think there's another question out there as well. के retail sector के लिए, if you don't switch over, or if you don't move yourself to sort of adapt the technology, how do you see the future of retail? So एक वो point है, they can generally business lesson. What would you comment on?
I think I'll start by saying that accounting standards or finance or close that they give us rules what to recognize, what to de-recognize in a nutshell, right? In layman's terms, they can see the task of a CFO that he or she currently faces is to give business clarity on performance and help the business steer right through these uncertain times. Crisis से पहले, especially in the retail world, online तो shift हो रहा था. It was gradually things were shifting to online gradually, right? लेकिन जो अगले 5 सालों का जो online transfer है, that all happened pretty much within a year. And that has created within retail businesses profit challenges, because as I said earlier in the webinar, online, whilst it is a channel, it has a different profit profile than if you have a store. You have a higher fulfillment cost, you have a customer acquisition cost, and returns, to name a few. But it's also created an opportunity for differentiation in the marketplace. So the key lesson is, if any retailer who believes they can simply ride the storm and then recoup their losses and sales will be back as they were before, I think they are in a bit of a shock. Because I don't think online sales, whilst they are really high, they may not be remain at the same levels, but they will never go back to the pre-COVID levels. So you've got to be prepared, and you need to understand as a CFO, as a finance business partner, how you generate profit, where your cost base is, and how do you, what are the drivers of the cost to serve your customers, and realize the true profitability of operating online. And I'll just say, at the end, that there is an opportunity in every crisis, and now is the time for retailer to seize the moment and transform for the future.
Yeah, no, that's I think we have to look for the opportunity in the crisis. I agree with you on that. Noman, over to you from your perspective.
Yeah, so
Business lesson.
I'll touch upon 3 business lessons. Firstly, organizations were transforming, as Khurram mentioned, but the lesson is that they can transform and change much more quickly and radically. So, there was a bit of excuse before, we are changing, but it will take time. No, things can move and change quite quickly. So I think organizations and corporations have to deliver on transforming, specifically reducing their cost base, automating more. And the second point would be analyzing how the customer behavior is changing. Uh, this year will change how people will behave. It will change society. It will change, ways of living. So we need to analyze how it will impact customer behavior, and then how it will impact, and how do we need to respond to the customer needs. And lastly, and I guess most importantly, COVID came from left field. No one knew about COVID. No one expected COVID, but COVID happened, and it literally changed the world. So I personally feel the next big thing, which people are now talking about, is climate. So organizations cannot ignore that anymore. So the impact of climate, the impact of climate change, the impact of climate on their own firm and organization, and how do they interact through business, sustainable finance. This is a very important topic for investors as well as for the new generation. So this is something which we need to definitely look into to address.
Absolutely. I think I 100% agree with you. Isme climate change, personally, I've been following this closely as well. And there will be significant challenges in terms of the operating models and so on, how they will be questioned and etc. But it's heavy on the regulatory agenda यहाँ पे तो for sure. UK में and globally अब तो not being political, लेकिन president भी US में एक आ गया है जो कि is rather more supportive of climate change and believes in climate change compared to the previous one. Over to Bano. I think question for you. यही कि business lesson from you being in audit, consultancy. आप क्या देख रही हैं कि how is it going to change this whole pandemic and the lessons you've learned from this? How is it going to change the business of audit and consultancy?
I guess I can speak from a point of view. My personal experience is that obviously COVID was unexpected. It was people initially जब ये बात हो रही थी early last year में तो कोई भी नहीं मान रहा था कोई long duration of working from home आ जाएगा सारा कुछ था. Everybody was a bit like blindsided कि ऐसा कुछ होगा. सब मान तो रहे थे कुछ हो रहा है, but nobody was really ready for change. But लेकिन change आया. We all embraced it and we were very quick to adapt to it. तो एक तो वो चीज हुआ कि adaptability and responding to what was happening was really fast. So that makes the fact that you can actually go through something as big as a pandemic so kind of smoothly is a very big lesson for all of us. Okay, change is always there, and if it comes, you have to embrace it, and you can work through the tides. Second thing, I think from our perspective is the use of technology. हम कैसे टेक्नोलॉजी को और लेके आए enhance करें कि we can actually offer our clients some kind of a continuous audit, which also then helps us de-burden peak areas of audit timetable. तो वो भी एक चीज है जो काफी on the agenda है. हम सब discuss करते हैं कि how can we use more technology to do more efficient, timely, or more quick or a continuous audit. वो एक चीज है. The third thing is, I think with this pandemic, the one thing that we all as a group would recognize is how important is looking after your own well-being and also the well-being of your staff. वो एक चीज बहुत ज़्यादा, it has been an important thing for myself, to be honest. कि आप हमारी saying है ना, जान है तो जहान है, वो बहुत important aspect रहा है इस दफा. और उसको शायद जब हम we were in our stream of doing the normal working hours and everything, वो हमें इतना ख्याल नहीं आता था. अब ज़्यादा आ रहा है. तो वो चीज well-being, climate change, again, it's not just an agenda for the businesses. Even firms are considering how does it impact us, from an overall perspective. How do we meet our own internal targets for climate change, ESG reporting and everything. So all of this is making quite a big sense. So I think learnings have been big, change do happen and you embrace it. How do you manage your teams, use of further technology within audits, and also the community that has been created through this COVID circumstances. Like I've seen a lot of firms releasing their people to work with NHS when the Project Nightingale was being built up in the UK. So all of that thing has really felt, I actually felt that was the biggest learning from myself. Okay, you can release people where you have to, You can come together as a community, and you have to look after yourself. And then obviously all these accounting and auditing issues, they will not go away. They will be part and here. They're not going. They will only get more and more focused on as you go along.
I think that's a good point. I think a purpose जो है, I think that organizational purpose and individually be हमारे purpose out of our lives. I think that you just need to reflect on that a bit more and think about how you're contributing to the wider society. And Noman ne jo baat ki climate change again, I think question there will be significant challenge in terms of accepting the cost of being more carbon neutral or being more environmental friendly. But it has to be done. I think there's no other way around it. It has to be done, and I think UK is lead le raha hai, and hopefully others would follow as well. But
Yeah.
this would be, it's not about, as they say, it's not about banking ke hisab se hum term use karte hain. It's not about green financing only. It's about financing green as well. What you are doing is green as well. It's not just about financing a renewable project ho gaya ya wind ka project ho gaya ya so on. It's about how you are conducting your own financing on a green basis. So that will be a key area to watch out for in the next few years. I'm just going to conclude. Let me just have a quick look here agar koi aur questions hai isme, but I think he just before we end, a question, the answer could be a yes or no, but I think जो चीजें हमने देखी हैं through this cycle, मेरा personal opinion है कि some of them are going to be there for a longer term. And the office of the future is going to be different. Flexibility, जो work flexibility, जो more working from home is going to be there. So I would want your comments on this. And, equally, I think one key lesson in terms of, let's just understand how do you see this impacting your reporting cycles in the future, outside the COVID environment as well, and how do you see the office of the future? So again, start with Noman.
Just a couple of points from my side. So, I mean, I think that from an office for the future point of view, the way forward will be greater flexibility in future working arrangements. So that 9 to 5 culture going to an office desk will change. So there will be a lot of adaptability, and now, organizations are so focused on reducing their corporate real estate footprint, their office costs. So that will definitely change. The second point is the reskilling of staff is a key priority, that we invest in programs to build future skills which can transfer the structure of our business. So whatever skills we have, those will change. So that reskilling of all of us is quite important, and we need to look into.
That's again, Noman, I must say, very good point. I think एक चीज जो हम सुनते आ रहे हैं कि knowledge economy. I think we've gone beyond that stage. Knowledge is now available at our fingertip. Basically, Google में डाल दो तो आपको knowledge वहाँ से मिल जाती है सारी. It's going to be about creative economy. I think individuals in the future need to have the creative skills, and उसका impact हमारे profession पे भी equally आएगा. So I absolutely agree with you on that point. Khurram, over to you. I think आपका opinion on office of the future and anything you would take away as a permanent feature as a learning from this cycle?
I think the office of the future, agree with Noman. I mean, we are all evaluating what is the requirement, and the flexibility is here to stay, right? During the pandemic, मैं गया था एक हफ्ते पाकिस्तान गया था, and I was still working for time zones in the UK, and I only told like few people, but I didn't need to tell anyone, right? Because I was still working and flexibly, and I was still able to do my job. So I think flexible working is here to stay, and how organization embrace it, the organization who embrace it very well and actually mean it, I think they'll do well, and they'll have the motivated people in, and also it will help people who have families, kids, working mothers, working fathers. So I think that is a good positive outcome of it. Yeah, and the other thing is really, be as flexible as you can, right? We like in finance traditionally, right? 12 months budget, quarterly forecasts, and this is our strategic priority for next 3 years. that's no longer the case. Things are changing. So you need to be prepared to change and take on board what you can and move forward.
Good. That's a good point as well. I think there's no sort of a budgeting period, 3 महीने के साल के 2 महीने जो है budget में लगे रहेंगे and you know उसके बाद फिर ठंड करा दी नहीं. That's not the case.
Yes.
You just have your agile finance वाली बात आ जाती है. I agree with you. Last comment from you, Bano, Office of the Future, and any sort of lessons you'll take forward.
I guess मेरे तरफ से तो Shoaib ये है कि yes, obviously not just offices, a lot of things have to be you have to rethink the whole purpose of an office now. And I've heard like from some of my clients that they're rethinking what is the purpose of the office. Is it for a full-time staffing? But mostly जो नजर आ रहा है वो है कि offices का shift हो जाएगा to collaboration, creative, creative rooms बन जाएंगे. It will only be there for some kind of burst sessions like an incubator. So it's not going to be the typical office that we had previously, where you had a permanent desk in an office or where you were given a room to work from. It's going to like shift from all of that into a rethinking or repurposing of the whole offices, and we've seen that as well. दूसरी बात है कि अगर offices वापस आएंगे भी तो it's not going to come to the same full capacities. It will not come to that point because a lot of people surveys, a lot of things are actually indicating कि लोगों को ये home working environment बहुत suit कर रहा है in many of the different parts of the business, different departments. So not all of the back offices need to be back in the offices. So I don't think so. I personally think कि offices का जो structure है वो 50% basis पे आएगा. The rest of it will be used for creative purposes, collaboration. They will be downsizing of major offices as well. So I feel that's how it's going to be honest. So rethink karna hai kya hai. A lot of people are putting, home workstations and stuff like that. So the point of what Khurram made was like about, I guess, working from abroad. As a lot of that has different kind of tax implications and everything. So not a lot of the companies are still investigating, exploring, can that be an option? Can that really work? So I think that we just have to watch that space. Okay, there will be any freedom or anything that would help कि वो हो सके. अभी तो इतना short term में लग नहीं रहा because उसके UK में tax implications if you're working from abroad for extended period of time. ठीक है, and some
I think was lucky. I think clearly, tax implications. I guess.
Exactly. I was only there for a week.
Okay.
No, absolutely. I mean, all I was trying to make point is that flexibility is the key. You have to be flexible and hope the countries understand that and provide that flexibility.
Yeah,
excellent.
but I think we are moving towards a change, and we have to just think about it that this is going to be a good change for all of us.
Exactly. Yeah. Excellent. Good. Well, thank you very much. I think we've slightly overrun. I was hoping we'll finish a bit earlier. I think it has been a very interactive session. So thank you. I'd make a few final comments towards the end, but I would like to thank you all three of you for being here, for contributing, for sharing your thoughts. And with that, I'll also pass on to Jafar Saab, who's been patiently waiting with us all this time. He is an academician, and he, in fact, was in the UK. I think 2 saal pehle Jafar Saab in the UK chapter dinner, which you kindly attended, and hopefully ye cheezein settle ho jayengi, so we'll look forward to seeing you again in the future. Like, over to you for your concluding remarks, and then I'll just end it after that. Thank you. Sorry, Jafar Saab, aap mute pe hain shayad.
Thank you, Shoaib. And first of all, I would like to thank Ashfaq Yusuftola for inviting me to this session. ये 90 minutes, 95 minutes कहाँ गुजरे मुझे बिल्कुल पता नहीं चला. आपको लग रहा था मैं patiently wait कर रहा हूँ, but I was so engrossed in the discussion you were having. और इतनी आप लोगों ने अच्छी डिस्कशन की है कि मैं समझता हूं कि जो टॉपिक का नाम रखा गया कॉर्पोरेट रिपोर्टिंग इन कोविड-19 ग्लोबल पर्सपेक्टिव, ये थोड़ा सा नाइंसाफी थी. आपने तो पूरे ऑफिस को डिस्कस किया, कॉर्पोरेट रिपोर्टिंग तो 75th मिनट में आपने कंप्लीट कर ली थी. अगले 20 मिनट्स तो आपने मेंटल हेल्थ और ऑफिस, फ्यूचर ऑफिस और इतनी वैरायटी ऑफ डिस्कशन थी इसमें, एंड इट वाज सो एंगेजिंग। जो इसका टेक अवे है, मैं समझता हूं कि बहुत बड़ी तादाद में पार्टिसिपेंट्स थे। मोर देन 200 पीपल वर ईदर ऑन द जूम और ऑन द फेसबुक। उन्होंने बहुत सी नई चीजें सीखी इस सारी डिस्कशन में, और बहुत सी चीजों पे उनको ये एहसास हुआ होगा कि वाकई ये एक दुनिया जो है ये ग्लोबल विलेज बन गया है, और बहुत सी चीजें जो यूके में हो रही हैं वही हम यहाँ पे कर रहे हैं। हमने भी मल्टीपल ऑपरेशनल प्लान बनाए इन पिछले 10 महीनों में। हमने भी अपनी कैश फ्लोज और बजट्स को कई कई दफा रिवाइज किया इस सारे अरसे में। हमें भी कुछ अरसे के लिए मेंटल हेल्थ के प्रॉब्लम्स आए, लेकिन चूंकि पाकिस्तान में जॉइंट फैमिली स्ट्रक्चर्स हैं तो वो प्रॉब्लम शायद उतने शदीद नहीं हुए यहाँ पे जितने आपके यहाँ शायद हो सकते हैं। हमारे यहाँ शायद उसकी इंटेंसिटी कम थी। कैश फ्लोज के प्रॉब्लम भी आए, गवर्नमेंट के पैकेज भी आए, ये सब हम रिलेट कर पाए इस सारी चीज़ों को। मैंने पर्सनली जिस चीज़ से सबसे ज़्यादा रिलेट किया और मुझे बड़ी कंफर्ट हुई वो थी शोएब का नेट कई दफ़ा डिस्कनेक्ट हुआ, जिससे मुझे ये एश्योरेंस मिली कि नेट की क्वालिटी पाकिस्तान और लंदन में कुछ ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं है इसमें। और क्योंकि मैं भी क्लास पढ़ाते हुए कभी कभी डिस्कनेक्ट हो जाता हूँ, और जो एंग्जाइटी शोएब के फेस पे मुझे नजर आती थी रिकनेक्ट होने के बाद, सो आई कुड रिलेट टू दैट एंग्जाइटी कि आप क्लास पढ़ा रहे हैं और दरमियान में से आपका नेट डिस्कनेक्ट हो गया है, एंड यू हैव टू फेस 50 odd people when you come back and tell them कि नेट खराब हो गया था यार। So now they have started understanding this also. पहले जब ये जूम मीटिंग्स होती थी और नेट खराब होते थे तो बड़ी टेंशन हो जाती थी। Now become used to it during the last 10-11 months. आपके तीनों पैनलिस्ट्स ने इतनी प्रैक्टिकल बातें की हैं कि कोई जार्गन उन्होंने यूज नहीं किया। उन्होंने बिल्कुल जो उनका हैंड्स ऑन एक्सपीरियंस था वो हमारे साथ शेयर किया, और मैं इसलिए तीनों का फर्दन शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूँ। आई विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम बानो, आपके प्रिंसिपल को लेते हुए लेडीज फर्स्ट, और इसलिए भी कि बानो हेल्स फ्रॉम माय होम टाउन लाहौर। तो बानो, थैंक यू वेरी मच, इट वाज वेरी एनलाइटनिंग, बहुत अच्छे तरीके से आपने चीज़ों को एक्सप्लेन किया। देन खुर्रम, माशाल्लाह आपकी जो बिजनेस के बारे में, अपने बिजनेस के बारे में नॉलेज है वो तो बहुत अच्छी थी, लेकिन उसको जिस तरह से आपने एक्सप्रेस किया विदाउट ब्रीचिंग द कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी ऑफ योर एम्प्लॉयर, वो लोगों के लिए एक बड़ा लर्निंग एक्सपीरियंस था। और नोमान ने भी बहुत अच्छी तरीके से जो उनके सेक्टर के प्रॉब्लम्स थे उनको एक्सप्लेन किया, ऑफिसेज में जो प्रॉब्लम्स आ रहे थे। सो तीनों आप एक डिफरेंट सेटअप से बिलोंग करते हैं और आपने अपने अपने एरियाज को बहुत अच्छे तरीके से एक्सप्लेन किया। तो मैं आई एम रियली ग्रेटफुल टू ऑल थ्री ऑफ यू फॉर गिविंग योर टाइम एंड शेयरिंग योर नॉलेज विद अस। आई एम रियली थैंकफुल टू शोएब. Shoaib is an asset for any organization, and Shoaib is an asset for the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan as well. जब मैं 2 साल पहले लंदन आया तो I was very impressed with the teamwork he was having during that family get together. और ऐसे लग रहा था कि शोएब का कोई पर्सनल फंक्शन है जिसमें उसके पर्सनल फ्रेंड्स सब आगे आगे होकर उसकी मदद करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। तो ये इस किस्म का टीम वर्क जो है ओवरसीज चैप्टर्स में, इट्स वेरी हार्टनिंग फॉर अस सिटिंग इन पाकिस्तान कि हमारे मेंबर्स जहाँ भी रह रहे हैं वो आपस में बड़े अच्छे तरीके से मिलते हैं और एक कम्युनिटी के तौर पे, एक टीम के तौर पर वो वहाँ पे ऑपरेट करते हैं। सो शोएब, आपकी जो स्किल थी ना इसको कंडक्ट करने की, ये एक प्रोफेशनल एंकर की स्किल थी। इसमें थोड़े से आप थिएट्रिक्स ऐड कर लें तो आप बीबीसी के लिए एक सेकंड आपका प्रोफेशन हो सकता है। आपने अपने सवालों को भी बड़ी स्किलफुली रखा हुआ था और एक के बाद दूसरा सवाल बड़े लॉजिकल ऑर्डर में लाते थे। आप कंट्रीब्यूट भी करते थे इस सारे प्रोसेस में। यू वर नॉट जस्ट आस्किंग द क्वेश्चंस, यू वर सप्लीमेंटिंग, you were engaging them in discussion as well. So it was really very absorbing, I would say. I thank the President ICAP also for joining us today in this session. And I'm also thankful to Ashfaq. Ashfaq is a very vibrant person. He is on the move all the time. He's thinking, he's doing. So he really did well by organizing this session. और आपको भी अंदाजा होगा कि इस सेशन के पीछे एक बड़ी प्रेपरेशन और इसके अभी भी कंडक्ट के पीछे भी बहुत सारे लोग बैठे हुए हैं जो इस सर्दी में भी जो ग्लोबल चेंज वेदर में आई है उसमें हमारे यहाँ भी बड़ी सर्दी आई है. आपको पता चला होगा कि कराची में भी स्वेटर निकल आए. लाहौर में तो हमें 3-3 लेयर्स पहननी पड़ रही हैं, इतनी सर्दी है. तो मैं उस तमाम स्टाफ का भी बहुत आई एम रियली थैंकफुल टू देम फॉर मेकिंग दिस सेशन possible, and I thank all the participants, over 200 participants who remained engaged in this. उन्होंने सवाल पूछे, बड़े अच्छे सवाल पूछे, उससे डिस्कशन में और रिचनेस आई और एक वैरायटी हमें थॉट की भी मिली. सो विद दिस, क्योंकि अब नमाज का टाइम हर जगह हो रहा है, तो आई वुड बेग लीव. और आप सबका एक दफ़ा फिर बहुत शुक्रिया कि आप लोगों ने बड़ा अच्छा सेशन अरेंज किया. आई लुक फॉरवर्ड टू अनदर सच एंगेजिंग एंड thoughtful session from our London chapter, UK chapter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jafar sir. Very kind of you. Thank you for being with us. I must say thank you to the ICAP team members, ICAP staff as well, who help us with this setting up these sessions. I'll just end on a quick quote from Charles Darwin. I think a bada relevant quote is environment mein, and something we should always think of and look forward to. And the quote is, "It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change." So as humans, I think we should never underestimate our resilience, our ability to adapt in different circumstances. As long as there's willingness to accept that change, I think the only way is forward. So hopefully the audience would have found these discussions useful as well. Apologies, I could not take all the questions. Lekin inshallah, in the next event, we'll try to do so. But thank you, everyone, and have a good weekend, rest of the weekend. And thank you again to all the participants. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.